We're recording it.
Good to go.
Okay, I'll call the Wellington Board of Education meeting to order on August 10th, 2021 at about 7:05. This is a Zoom meeting. The first item on our agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would stand, we will pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. Okay. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Next item is present to speak. This is an opportunity for anyone in the public to say a few words. We're limited to 5 minutes, and please not talk about any personalities on the staff, please. Phil, do we have any?
Since right now have the ability to unmute themselves if you want to speak. You can unmute yourself, just identify. Going once. Going twice. It's going to be a fast meeting.
Okay, there's no one at this time, okay? Okay, this is Herb Arico, and as chairman, I have a little statement to say, a little report. The circumstances of the pandemic and the subsequent economic downturn and other educational inequities indicate that our students' education will continue probably to see some disruption. And it has been a disruption of many, is not all, if all of the norms and are not practiced. As the Board of Education members, we must prepare for the next phase of our students returning to school this summer. And there is recognition that the needs of our students and the staff and families are unprecedented. There's no question that and require intentional planning to ensure that they are adequately addressed. And while we are focused on how to safely keep our buildings full capacity, we can't really underestimate the impact of the past year on our students' learning. Learning generally is affected by our students' own unique combination of things like motivation, skills, needs, and life and learning situations, as well as by the support they receive from their families. And we should pay attention to our students through the staff and family support. And we should never forget the trauma that our students have faced for more than a year. So we've got to utilize the parents, support staff, and teachers to be assured that our students are feeling comfortable in our efforts to return to a sense of normality in our school system. So we have quite a task before us, but we are beginning a new year, and hopefully it will be another successful year for us as a district. The end. Our next item on the agenda are communications. We haven't had too many communications over the last year, but we do have a few things I'd like to address. A couple of these are from CABE. They have a virtual equity summit series, part 1. I think they have part 1 and part 2. And their topic, which is to be expected probably, is learning and leading for systemic racial and social justice. That's on August 11th, and it goes from 8:15 to about 3:30 in the afternoon. And it's a free event. If anyone is interested in that, you might look into it. The CABE newsletter wishes everyone a happy summer, even though we're probably more than halfway through. And they mention the fact that the Government Relations Committee, and I don't know if you're on that committee, you're on a couple of committees, but just watch your mail this month, your email for 2021 educational law summaries. And what they're going to do is summarize the laws that the legislator has passed. They had hundreds of laws, and they're weaning it down to a few. Also, the CABE Journal is coming out, may have come out already for July and August, and is going to be delivered electronically, which is interesting to say the least. Also, another communication that I have is from CABE. That's the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education. I won't read the whole letter, but it's to Mr. Erico, Chairman of the board and so forth. Thank you for the Wellington Board of Education's decision to continue its CABE student membership. Our organization's viability and success in support of its individual members is especially important as we head into the summer and back to school. And then they mention their mission and the boards at CABE's organization and so forth. In the last paragraph, please know that if you have questions regarding your service as a board member, the answer is a phone call away or email away from one of your CABE staff members. Thank you for your commitment. The board and the staff stand ready to serve you. And it's signed by Donald Harris, who is president of CABE, and Bob Rader, executive director. We also have another communication. This one was from the superintendent, and I think every board received it. It's a joint statement on the importance of a culturally responsive education. It's from the Connecticut State Department of Education, Connecticut Association of Public Superintendents, Connecticut Association of Boards of Education, Connecticut Association of Schools, Federation of Teachers in Connecticut, the Connecticut Education Association, and they have a lengthy statement regarding the diverse student bodies that we have, probably more in the big cities than in smaller communities. Also, I have another communication, and I believe every board member received this. It's from Jamie Goldberg. That's Koprek. And she sent a lengthy letter. I'm not going to read the whole letter because it will be in our records. But briefly, her letter covered the future regarding masking in school. And she explained her position, in her opinion, regarding mask for our students and cover just about every area concerning mass. Another portion of her letter dealt with the community health clinic and some of the potential policies, which she says she finds appalling. And he went into detail on health clinics, and she wasn't too happy with the clause dealing with children as young as 12 years old meeting with a counsel without parental knowledge. And also she dealt with unvaccinated teachers and students receiving the PCR testing or COVID-19. And he mentioned the fact that the sterilized used item, ethylene oxide, is a cancer producing chemical. And also her last statement probably, children are in school to receive free public education as they are promised in Connecticut Constitution. And they are there to learn about normal school subjects like reading, math, science, social studies, etc. They are not there to learn about race theory, sexual orientation, preference, transgender topics, and they are certainly not there to get medical evaluations without parental control and consent, and also getting prescribed medications without parental knowledge. And also she mentioned bullying. Students should not be bullied because of their position on issues of that kind. And her last sentence simply says that I want to thank you for taking the time to hear my stance, and I wish you the luck of your decision making. And thank you for all that you do today and always. Sincerely, Jamie Goldberg. And
I'm sorry,
do you have any?
Rodriguez, that to everyone on board, and I see the name on the email. It went.
Yes, it
did
is.
Not go to you. I'll be sure to forward that to you.
It has been forwarded to me.
Yeah, I mentioned the fact that every board member has seen the letter.
Yeah, I'm not on the website, but
okay. Well, we can get a copy to you, Laura, probably. And
I've got one. It's good.
Sorry about that, Herb.
Phil, do you have any correspondence?
Nope.
If not, we'll move to the superintendent's report, and he'll be discussing staffing, the school opening for 2021-2022, Kevin Lagarara's field dedication, summer building update, and summer school. Phil?
And Aaron Conley will introduce you at the end of this, just so you know. So obviously it's summer. We've had some movement. It's typical in the summertime. We have hired several paraprofessionals, including Mary Bryant, Andy St. Jean. Andy, if you know the name, had worked for a contracted company that we were using, now working for us, directly for us through the Wellington contract. Para opening for from Giselle Semeniego, and I got word today there's another resignation coming from another. People are getting jobs in different places, and I'll tell you, Giselle, the position, and she's looking to be a teacher in the future, and she accepted a position that's going to help her move forward in her career. not support that. And that's what, that's what we try and do. We have a finalist for the 7th grade ELA, our English Language Arts position, as Bridget O'Connor. She had resigned again. Bridget will be working as an interventionist, and she's forwarding her career. She's trying to become a reading, basically remedial reading certification, a reading specialist in the future. And then just today, I hired as the 3rd grade long-term subs for
Phil?
yes.
Your voice is going in and out a little. I think if you could move your phone a little closer to where you are, that would be better.
Do you care if I look like I'm talking on the phone?
No, I think that would be better. We're losing a couple of words. I want to make sure that everything you're saying is clear.
Sheila's right. We can't hear you better with the phone up there.
Oh. Fast so my battery doesn't die.
Okay, there we go.
It might be that I'm in this room too. I just want to let you know this afternoon, Rich Napoli, the center school principal, notified me that he's having me here. So Rich's resolution, he's a district that's closer to his home. I will be and principal start the school year, and obviously we wish Rich a future. And you're all staring at me blankly. Can you?
We got the gist of it, but you are still cutting out a couple of words here and there.
Can you call in on your office phone instead of on a cell phone? Would that help?
Let's try that. Yep. Timeout. Give me a minute, please.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm glad it wasn't just me.
You could see his mouth moving. At first, I thought he was just pausing for effect or pausing to, the next word. And then I realized his mouth was still moving and it was just the sound that was cutting out.
Phil, if you can make the connection, can you start from the beginning again? Because it was garbled all the way through. You're muted right now. No.
Hold on.
Okay.
We should be able to hear.
Are we successful?
We are.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Sorry about that fiasco here. It's been one of those tech days. All right, so I'm going to start that section again, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
So this afternoon, Rich Napoli, who's the center school principal, notified me that he's resigning from his position. He's moving to another district closer to his home. I'll be looking for an interim principal to start the school year. Obviously, I wish Rich a successful future, but we will be doing a search for that position. He was here for 3 years. Lastly, here's the good news, and she's actually with us today. We welcome Erin Conley, who's on screen there. She's on camera, as our Director of Curriculum and Instruction. She has a significant experience in curriculum development and revision, administrative leadership as a principal, providing professional development, and will have her doctoral degree by December. I said I was glad that Erin wasn't running for the superintendent's job when I applied. Erin was a principal in New Haven for the last 2 years.
Her references were all glowing. They said she's passionate about curriculum and her energy is contagious. We've already seen the energy. And based on her prior experience and proven track record, I look forward to what she's going to be able to accomplish with us in Willington. Again, this is one of those grant-funded positions for 3 years. And Michelle, if you want to just click on her and allow her to unmute herself in case she wants to say a few words.
Good evening, everybody. I first want to say thank you for this opportunity. I am so extremely excited to learn more, to work with the team. I'm coming in Thursday to meet the administrative team, and tonight was my first meeting with all of you. So I just want to say thank you, and I'm very much looking forward to our work together.
Great. We are too, Aaron. We are too.
Welcome aboard.
All right, so I will keep moving if that's okay with everybody else. And Aaron, I always say this: feel free to bug out. You don't need to stay here tonight unless you really want to watch what's going on with this phone madness. Thanks for coming. All right, so the school opening for 21-22, we are working on our school opening plan. I'm not going to say reopening because we were open before. Obviously, we're still receiving guidance from the State Department of Ed, Department of Public Health. I will provide the board with an updated and comprehensive opening plan once it's complete. We are still getting that data, but I wanted to give you a few highlights that we know so far. I did have a meeting yesterday for superintendents only and today with DPH. So I have this is kind of hot off the press for some of the things. Obviously, the big thing here with masks, we're still looking for guidance around masking. But at this point, I can tell you that the governor's executive order that it requires masks in school through September 30th. It's a requirement. Masks are required on buses and recommended for all staff and students by the CDC and American Academy of Pediatrics, and that's regardless of your vaccination status. We expect, we've been told that we're going to have more details before the start of school around masking. We'll see, but we know at least through September 30th at this point, that is what we are required to do because of the executive order. Regarding social, I see Elena's hand. Do you want me to pause for a second?
Would you please?
Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yes. Helena Testa. It's just concerning the Jamie's letter. I just read it. I didn't see it before. And you're talking about masks. You mentioned that the masks are required on buses, but recommended in school. There is a difference.
Now, right now, the executive order is required in school buildings. It is through September 30th, through the executive order. It's either number 12 or number 13, but there's certain places, I think it's child care facilities, schools, there's a few places where it is mandated right now, and that's through the executive order and the Department of Public Health, and it's through September 30th. We don't know what's going to happen after that point at this time.
So we are mandated to have masks at this point.
Correct.
Until
Yes, we are.
September 30th. During the school day, Phil, at what times will they remove their mask? If they're outside.
So when they go outside, when they eat, any of their food, their lunches, take a drink of water, they'll have mask breaks still. But, the majority of the day, they have to have their mask on, and it's staff and students, regardless of your vaccination status.
I'm sorry.
But they're not wearing the mask all day. There are breaks during the day. And
correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Elena?
Yes, about masks again. So as Jamie was concerned, and she mentioned in the letter that her son had dirty mask inside, is there ways that we can ask teachers around children to keep an eye on masks and have a stack of extra masks if they see?
Yeah, we do. Yep. Yep, we'll pass that along in our training again, just talking about masking and requirements. We have extra masks in the offices, and I believe they have them in the classrooms too. I know they absolutely have them extra masks on the buses as well, and we provide those.
Thank you.
You're welcome. As far as social distancing goes, the guidance is to have at least 3 feet between students. And we're going to be showing desk formations so teachers can use that setup in their classroom. They are not going to be what I'm going to call islands, one desk per area. But we are going to do, it's basically a triangle that they can do, and that meets the 3-foot requirements better than the islands, in my opinion. We are not going to be cohorting this year, so we have ordered air purifiers to use in spaces that do not have ventilation. Just like we did last year, we're ordering the same ones. They actually are the #1 recommended air purifier, so we did well with that. The disinfection routine has been reduced, as touch surfaces are not a significant risk of transmission, so that'll be reduced some. As far as quarantining goes, students and staff who are symptomatic, asymptomatic, no longer need to quarantine if they're identified as a close contact, and that's as long as they have their vaccination, which they can share. Remote learning is only going to be available to students with disabilities if it's identified through their planning and placement meetings. Any student who's quarantining, and there's a couple other very rare instances, but note it's not parent choice like it was last year. And they, in the legislation, they actually missed the weather portion. So there's remote learning cannot occur during inclement weather this year. You don't have a choice, but it's on their agenda for 22-23. So stay tuned. We do plan to operate clubs and sports this fall, obviously, with all the mitigation strategies in place. And then lastly, there's no mandate right now for vaccinations. Obviously, that's not coming from out of my office or the Board of Ed at this point. That would be coming from the state, from DPH or feds. But staff and families will be able to obviously privately share their proof of vaccination with the school nurse if they choose, just like they do any other vaccine. Obviously, again, the idea here is that we implement a layered system of mitigation strategies and that we keep our students and staff safe. The last comment I'll make about this kind of COVID kind of opening is that we are applying again to implement the National School Lunch Program this year, and we do expect that breakfasts and lunches will be free to students again this school year. So as a result, the board has a little less work to do because you don't have to set lunch prices this school year. You'll have to redo it for 22-23.
Laura,
I just talked a lot. Any questions on any of those items for school opening?
On the
Laura has a question. Sorry.
are you going to be cleaning desks and things like that, Phil? You didn't mention that, but
yeah, I mean. Yeah, I didn't go into every detail, but they will be doing the same cleaning they were doing at night. They have a backpack sprayer. They were basically getting into, you didn't have to use the disinfection cleaning chemicals as much because they know more about it being airborne. And so but they will continue their cleaning regimen, obviously.
Do we have staff to do that?
Yes, we do. Laura?
I was just wondering if students would be able to eat lunch in the cafeteria now, keeping that 3-foot distance, or even thinking maybe increasing the 3-foot because the masks will be off while they're eating.
So to be able, they are going to eat in the cafeteria again, and it's going to be maxed out. And basically what they're doing, if you just picture a zigzag, every seat next to you is open, the seat across from you is open, and it meets the 3-foot requirement. And we're trying to do that so kids are not eating in classrooms because it is another big challenge. They actually had to add some lunch waves to Hall School. We believe Center School is all set. And then we've talked about I've talked to both administrators about the potential need for overflow. Obviously, in the next couple of weeks, we have sometimes a rush in of students. So if any classes grow, we have a plan if there's a need for overflow for the cafeterias.
Phil, how many lunch waves do we have now?
So there's one per every grade level at Center, so K through 4, so you've got 5. And then at Hall, they were planning, typically each year they have two, like a 5-6 and a 7-8. And this next year they're going to have 4, so they can accommodate all of the students in the cafeteria.
Okay, sounds good. Any other comments?
All right.
Laura has her hand up.
I'm just wondering, in the nice weather, which goes until November, if you could even extend to having lunch outside, or if that would.
Yeah, the challenge they're going to work on that. Obviously, we still have the carports up. I don't think the tents are going to go back up just because they would go back up for a couple months, but we have the carports. One of the things, Laura, is coverage. If you put somebody in the cafeteria, you also need someone in the outside, and then who's doing that? That's what they're trying to determine. Because what we're trying to do is avoid having teachers having to complete that duty, because we'd much rather have them planning or working, doing something else.
I agree.
So I figured you would.
Having done lunch duty, I definitely agree.
Yeah. Okay, so the Kevin Laguerre field dedication, he was the HMS baseball coach. He passed away in February of 2019. It's scheduled for the field dedication is scheduled for August 28th. We had been working on this pre-COVID, and obviously plans got put on hold. Kevin coached baseball at HMS for 6 seasons, and he passed away from cancer. We are going to have a brief ceremony August 28th at the town office building, baseball field at 4:15 p.m. You're welcome to join if you'd like. And then I just want to give you a brief summer building update. We've had a busy summer with some of the projects and updating some of the critical items in our buildings. Center School, we're in the process. Our Promethean boards came in. It was like Christmas in August yesterday. They came in, so those were in the process. They're already in classrooms. They'll be mounted this week. We have the installer coming in right away, which is great. Regarding the Center School roof, I have some good news there. Silktown Roofing came in. They completed some patching in the areas where we had leaks from the heavy rains. Thank you, Michelle, for doing that, by the way. The good news is that what we thought, I walked into Center School after the heavy rains and looked at the ceiling was concerned about the number of wet ceiling tiles, and it was not from the rain, from the roof leaking. We need to run our ventilation constantly because of COVID, and some of the main hallway, the ventilation, the ductwork was not insulated properly. And so when we pulled off the ceiling tiles and looked up, and I have a picture of just one piece of ductwork that has 1,000 drips on it ready to go, we now have someone coming in. Obviously, it's at a cost, but we need to have the ductwork properly insulated, because what's happening is it's pulling in the humid air, it's trying to cool it, and then the condensation is just dripping onto the ceiling tiles. Once that's done, I feel like we're going to be in pretty decent shape because of the patching. So better news than I thought. We are in the process of having a company insulate the ductwork. I mentioned that. And then lastly, we did have some security upgrades installed, which is really, I'm going to tell you because you'll see them, is the door access with cameras at several doors. So there's a couple classrooms and a couple doors that did not, number one, have direct camera on that door so you can see the person's face, and it did not have fob access. They have both now. So that's an upgraded security thing, and we've applied for a grant for that. Still have not heard on that, though. At Hall School, we are in the process of installing, obviously, the Promethean boards there as well. Several stairwells received a facelift there with new treads to cover the asbestos tiles. So that's in the works. The gym floor has been entirely refinished. It looks like a brand new gym. It looks incredible. I'll have to get some pictures or have you come out for a tour. The bad news here at Hall, we had a hot water boiler fail inspection. We're working to fix the issue. There was a question about feed water piping to the boiler being improperly installed. So obviously we have MCOR coming out to look at that. And we will also flag the HMS for our fire alarm system. Nobody's caught this apparently in the inspections for years, that the fire alarm system is supposed to trip the breaker to shut down the kitchen equipment, the stove, any of that equipment. nobody ever caught it. So they caught it. We're in the works of fixing that, which is good. And then the last thing about Hall School, Silktown did come through there as well and completed some patching in those areas where we had the leaks from the heavy rain. And we'll see in the next rain how we do.
The winter.
Last item is the summer school item, and just want to mention we had a great summer school. Things went very well. I heard really good things from our director. Student attendance was good, and I think our staff is happy with the outcomes. This is a hard year to do summer school and to recruit staff. I really want to send out a big thanks to Katie Rishling, Michelle Shine, and Deb Callahan. They really stepped up and to take this summer school position. We appreciate it, and just meeting the needs of our students. A lot of people did not want to do that, and they stepped in. So the big thank you to them. Any questions on anything from my report?
I have a question, Donna Cook.
Go ahead, Donna.
All right, couple things. The ventilation ductwork that was not properly insulated, how long ago was that done?
I'm sorry, did you say how long ago was that done?
Correct. How long ago was that?
I don't know when that ventilation was put in. I got to assume that's. I don't even know, Donna. I'm not sure.
Okay, I was just concerned it was something recent and that we should, go back to the vendor, whoever installed it, and say, "Hey, look, you didn't do this right." But if it's been a long time, that's.
I think it's been a long time. Yeah, we've never had to run our ventilation like we are needing to for COVID. What they're requiring us, and so typically it's not an issue in the summertime, but it is right now, especially in the next couple of hot days.
So we're still running the ventilation in the summer when the building's not in use?
Well, you still have people there, and it's still a requirement. So they're not running it as often right now because we are having the drips, and the insulation will be put in soon. But it's something that it's a DPH requirement.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. Herb, you want me to go on to the financial report?
Yes, would you continue with that? July financial report?
Absolutely. Yep. So typically I put comments into your financial report. I did not do that this time because it's August and we really it's typical to kind of say like, ooh, this is normal. We've spent some money in each of the areas, but because it's the start of the school year, you're not seeing anything that I'm going to say meaningful. If I work backwards here, the fringe benefits are not balanced out with our new hires or people leaving. If I look at special ed, obviously it looks like there's a ton of money there, but outplacements are not done. The bills to EastCon are not done. So it's pretty standard right now. If you see something where there's a lot of money encumbered, transportation, or center school, hall school, you see the 1.5, 1.8 million, that's all the staffing. So that's typically what you see. So we encumber all that money. So this I will put comments in next month for you as things settle down a little bit, but just didn't think it was worth the time this month to do that.
Okay, so these are estimates, aren't they, for the expended figures and encumbered?
Yeah, so this is Donna, the business manager's report that she gives to me just to see where each program is at so we can track it and see where our expenditures are going. If you look in that ENC column, that's what's the encumbered. And so we don't leave it. It would look strange to you if you left it in the balance remaining if it was salary, because we know we're going to pay the salaries out. So she moves that money into encumbered. And so what you see as balance remaining is really what we're looking at this point in time.
And under operation maintenance, do we have a contingency fund there or money floating around there for?
No, it's typical. I mean, we have some smaller projects that are there. Some of the things like obviously the ventilation installation was not budgeted for. I'm trying to work it into a grant because it's obviously connected to us having to run our ventilation because of COVID. So it's just a matter of if they'll allow it, and if they do, we will not need to take it out of this direct budget.
So if we have something major, Phil, we'll go to the Board of Finance.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
How much money?
Anything else there?
How much money do we have in that 2% account? You know, offhand.
I'm not sure. I'll have in September. I'll have the end of the year report for you from 2021. And when I give you that 2021 report, I'll report on the non-lapsing account how much is in there. And then I also had said that there's potential we'll have another outplacement that moved into the district that we'll just need to do. And so that we may be asking for an additional percentage. I think it was around $60,000 that because it caps out at a percentage of your budget, and I would bring that to your next board meeting.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Any other
You're welcome.
Relative to the finance summary for 2021-2022? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to our next item, which is the committee report of the Finance Committee. I think everyone received a copy of the minutes of that meeting.
We're going to speak to a lot of that there, Herb, when we get to that item on the agenda too further down. I don't know if you just want to wait till that point.
Yeah, we'll wait. Okay. Any other committee reports? Hearing none. New business, approval of minutes for the regular meeting of July 13th, 2021, and approval of the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting, August 4th.
I move that we approve the minutes of our regular meeting on July 13th, 2021. Michelle Cunningham.
I second it. Laura Rodriguez.
Okay, any comments? Relative?
Yes, Elena Testa.
Go ahead.
Yes, on page 13 in the minutes, right before our last vote, it said Elena Testa requested that for the next meeting, short information cards are made available to the public about whether critical race theory is infused in our curriculum. So it sounds a little bit, which cards? Information cards. So all I asked was to give an answer so we would all hear if all those things are taught in our school system. That's all. So parents would be aware. So can we change the language in this, like removing information cards, and we could say requested the answers if for the public, if critical race theory is infused, if project is taught, and so ever.
Are you putting that in the form of a motion?
Well, I don't know. Should I make an amendment for that? So to amend to approve minutes with amendment? That's what I should do?
I have a question about the process for this. Now that we've been recording and producing recordings for all of our meetings, I don't know if obviously they're not word for word because there's no way we'd be down in even 13 pages. I guess my question is do we need to formally change minutes, the written minutes, if the recording is also made available and reflects what you meant? Are you saying that you said something incorrectly, or are you saying that the written minutes what you said?
No, I'm sorry, the bad connection. No, it's not what I said. I did not request any information cards.
Okay.
Period. I requested the answers to be given if those things were taught in our curriculums. That's all. So if we can change it because it's incorrect, and I know that many people are not watching videos and they just reading the minutes. So I would like it to be corrected. So amend it. So do you want me to make a motion to amend it?
Well, your motion is in order. You can,
Okay.
If you want to adjust the minutes, you will be adjusting the hard copy. The recorded part is a backup for the minutes, which are our hard copy.
Okay.
So do you want me to make adjustments, or how do you want me to proceed?
You already made a motion. I don't think you got a second yet.
Okay. Okay.
But we would need a very specific motion about which words are stricken and which are replaced, because we can't vote on it just on the concept.
Okay, let me then formulate it correctly. Yes, I make a motion to I make a motion to replace the words in the last paragraph on page of the minutes on page 13. So Elena Test requested that for the next meeting. So instead of short information cards are made available to the public, to write that the answers are given to the public.
The what is given to the public?
Answers. Answers are given to the public about whether critical race theory is infused in our curriculums, if Project 1619 is taught in our schools, and if children in our school are taught if they can select their gender. Instead of short requested short information cards are made available to write the answers are given. Does it sound correct?
Phil, can you read that back to us?
I know.
I mean, it sounds like she's just saying Elena Testa requested to give parents information whether critical race theory is infused in our curriculum and so on.
Yes, we could do that. Let's do that. Sorry.
Elena, why don't you just take out the word that all the way to about? And it would read Elena Testa requested whether critical race theory is infused in our curriculum, because the last line says this is so parents who want to know who are informed.
Let's do that.
So,
thank you so much.
Because I'm not sure exactly what was said, because that's what would be in the minutes, but it's easier to remove something than add something.
Okay, sure.
So if you agree to taking out what is after the word requested, that would come out all the way to the about. So that for the next meeting, short information cards are made available to the public about will come out of, that would be the adjustment.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your help.
Okay.
So I accept that friendly amendment, so we don't need to vote on that separately.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Do we have a second on that?
I had seconded.
Laura seconded the original motion.
Okay, any comments, or if not, all those in favor of the motion to amend signify by saying aye.
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 Oops.
Okay, we're
Aye.
Donna, we can't see you, so you're going to have to say it separately.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Raise my hand.
we voted to accept the amendment. Now we're back to the main motion, which is to approve the minutes which have been changed.
Okay.
This is July 13th minutes. We need a motion to approve those.
No, we already have that motion on the table, Herb.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of the motion which is on the table signify by saying aye. And
Aye.
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 all those opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so voted. Point of information, Phil, in regard to the minutes, I think Michelle mentioned the fact that they are being recorded. I went through the recorded minutes, but I couldn't find the Board of Ed recorded minutes. I could find the Finance Committee, the Building Committee, and a couple of the board minutes, but I couldn't find the July 13th minutes, the recorded. Are they in there yet, or is that something that's in process?
Good question. I don't know. I'll have to look.
And where
You're talking about, are they posted to the website? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I'll find out. I'm not sure about that.
I move that we approve the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting for August 4th, 2021.
Donna Cook will second that.
So Phil, before we do that, Phil, you're going to take care of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Michelle, what was your motion?
To approve the Finance Committee meeting minutes of August.
Okay.
And Donna seconded it.
Donna seconded, okay. Any discussion relative to the Finance Committee minutes? Hearing none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Abstentions? The motion is passed. The minutes.
Elena, hold on. Elena abstained. She raised her hand to abstain, so you need to do a roll call vote, 4 minutes.
Sorry, I wasn't there. That's why I abstained.
You abstain?
You don't have to be there to accept them as you're just approving them.
You're accepting them
that you
to
weren't
the
there.
committee because they're not only three.
Can I revote? Can I just say yes then?
Yes.
I just will say yes. I'm sorry. I thought I did not have a right to vote as I wasn't present. Okay, then yes, please.
Thank you.
Elena Testa.
That makes it unanimous. Now you're good. Thank you, Elena.
Okay, Elena, thank you.
Laura has a question though, doesn't she?
Just a comment that the July 13th minute recordings are on the YouTube channel. I just found them. So they are there.
Yeah, I think he's talking about the written minutes, Laura, that go on the website. I put the YouTube recording up, but typically we just send the minutes over to the clerk's office. So I'm not sure if they're at the clerk's office or if it goes on our website, if it's Brenda's, but I'll check. I'll confirm it.
You're not talking about the recorded.
I thought you wanted the recording. The recording's there, but you're right. The written minutes are not.
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew where he was going.
I was talking about the recorded minutes, Laura. I was looking for the recorded minutes.
The recording or the written?
The recording.
Recording is there on the YouTube channel.
I looked.
Are you talking about the videos, Herb? The videos?
Yeah. It's
they're all there.
It's there. I found it. It's just down a little ways.
I looked for them. I couldn't find them.
Oh, I always do that the next day after meetings. It's part of my routine.
Okay. I'll look again. Okay, moving on to old business. Okay, we're down to the school-based behavior health service agreement or contract, attachment number 4. And the Board of Finance did meet and discuss the contract, which has been moving forward. There were a few items that concern the Finance Committee. And one of them was on the first page dealing with the number 1, termination and term of the contract. And the Finance Committee seemed to agree that the under B, the termination, slight change of the 90 days to 60 days would be appropriate. And I guess
do you want me to speak to 2C, Herb?
Yeah, I think there were 2 changes in this one. Well,
Yeah, if you're looking at what's on screen now, the committee recommended the change in green, and that is what went to CHC. They passed this information past their legal team, and they're actually in the process of any contracts moving forward. They're going to try and do like this. Because they had a concern that was around tracking. How, if someone had to call, let's pretend the social worker had a student they believed that would meet the criteria clinically, that they wanted to see them without parent consent, and that clinician had to call CHC to get permission. That person that they're calling to would have to know this specific contract, and they didn't like that. So what they did, CHC, and I sent this back to the board, I think this went out yesterday, I'm not sure, is that CHC made a recommendation to say, strike everything about that emergency crisis piece, no more one time. The green would still be crossed out at the top. Add a statement that basically says, in the case of an emergency where a student has not received written parental consent, emergency services will be contacted 211. And so what that does is it takes them off the hook of having to remember someone's individual contract, of having to get permission to talk to permission from CHC. And if I can too, I'm going to change my screen here so I can show you a piece of data, because this is something that you were asking about. Can you see a spreadsheet on your screen now?
Yes.
Thank you. So this is one of the pieces of data that you had asked about. So in 2021, they had 4 students total, and all of their behavioral health have visits with no parental consent. And this is actually a red flag to them for 12 visits, and I'll tell you why. Is that what happened is that this person, this clinician, got permission from CHC. They actually got permission from the parent as well, but verbally, and it was not a signed agreement. And so what happened was they have to call it a no consent until it's signed. Well, the parent kept verbally saying, well, I'll sign it, just keep seeing them, I want you to see it, but never sign the paperwork. And so they documented that. And so this is one person, one student right here. And so they had 4 students in all of their visits, and all of their children that had no permission. To give you a sense of how many students, this is just behavioral health. For 2021, they dealt with 4,817 students for behavioral health through school-based health clinics. So that's a pretty strong piece of data, I would say. But it's also, this is, again, the reason why they're shifting away, and they only want to see kids with permission now. I think we sparked some conversations with them and their attorneys, is that, they don't want to miss this. This is, without having to go out to that parent and literally hold the document for them and say, can you please sign? They just were not getting the signed copy. So there's 4 students out of 2021 out of all those visits. So does that, do you understand the changes here that was recommended? And this was after the committee met. So really, this highlighted section that I just did, in the case of an emergency where a student has not received written parental consent, emergency services will be contacted. It seems like a logical solution. They're satisfied with that, and I think it's a reasonable recommendation.
And it's much simpler.
Yes.
Yes, much simpler.
I can support it totally.
Do you want me to show the other data since I was just on that?
Yeah.
Because I know it's gonna be tied to the last item that was on the contract. That was the question. So you would ask some questions about the number of students they see, and this is, again, only behavioral health through school-based health clinics. This is not, everybody that they see. Only behavioral health, school-based health clinics. She put this piece of data in to show that there was quite a bump around COVID, because this is the COVID time. So it's not these two adding together. It's that 2021, 4,817. A good chunk of those they saw from March 1st on. And what this is the total number of visits for all of those students. And if you just divide these two, each student would have plus or minus 20 visits. That would be the average. But remember, some students might only have 2 visits, and some might be twice a week. So it's just an overall number. This is their visits, again, behavioral health through school-based health clinic. Total visits for 2021, 53 weeks, they had 95,585 visits, which is an average of 1,800 visits a week. That's their total number of visits they had. I already showed you the visits without consent. And then the last one is you were asking about the reasons that students were seen. And they couldn't break it out for me by specific reason. But again, this is just behavioral health, just school-based health clinics. And they basically said there were 288 different diagnoses, and they're trying not to diagnose specific, things in these sessions, but you can see the uptick of the number they had, and these are all of the different things that they could be pulling from. So post-traumatic stress, could be an adjustment disorder. This is how they flag all of their, what they're seeing a child for. So those are kind of the pieces of data that she shared. So if I go back to the contract, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, could you email it to us? Or what is it?
I think
information?
I think I did.
Yeah.
You did? I didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I think I sent.
Disorders?
I got that this morning at about 11:30, and obviously it's been a crazy day, and so I sent it late this afternoon after I had a chance to go through it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can I ask a clarification question, Phil?
Yeah.
Were those, when I looked through that lengthy list, were all those for mental health, or are those where they also do medical? Because some of the
it's probably
There was diabetes in there.
Yeah, because there were some things that seemed like it would be a medical condition, not a.
Correct. Some of these, some of these things are definitely tied. It's their full list that they have. That could be medical related too. Good question.
Thank you.
So if we go back to the contract now, sorry, I'm just trying to find the spots. You remember we talked about this. This is in there. They agreed to that. That just all legal notices go to my office. And then this is where the committee agreed and then didn't finalize one piece. Herb had asked for examples for reasons for services, and we just put a list in here that's examples. And then as far as the delivery methods go, the committee agreed on this section minus group counseling. And the data I sent to you today was that groups are, I don't have that email up. Can somebody pull it, just confirm with me? It was groups are between 3 and 6, and students are grouped in like groups by whatever the diagnosis is. And then I believe that about only 10% of students that are eligible for CHC services for behavioral health would qualify for group counseling. Did I get that right?
No, Phil, you did not get that right. The committee did not come to consensus around whether group counseling should be included or
correct.
Not. So no, that's not
correct.
Though I just want to be clear that that was the one piece that we did not come to consensus, which is why it's in yellow. The green we did come to consensus with, leaving that the way it is written now.
Right, but
correct. The data I just shared is what was the question. They wanted to know what percentage of students were eligible or participating in that.
Okay, so I can read that email to you. You said CHC said parents are notified as a part of a student's plan, and that groups are between 3 and 6 students with quote unquote like diagnoses or issues. A caseload is generally between 30 and 60 students. So maybe 10% become eligible for a group.
Right.
There you go. Perfect.
Okay, are we ready?
Well, I just want to maybe, can I talk? I have my hand up. Laura Rodriguez. I just reading this email, I just kind of want to emphasize, right, that parents are notified of a student's plan. So for group counseling, that's something parents are going to know, that this is, you know, their students are recommended for group counseling. So again, with parental permission, if the parent didn't want that, they would be able to say that. So I'm not sure what the issue would be with group counseling.
Elena, that's the question. Could I ask?
Michelle, did you have a hand up?
I did. I move that we approve the community health center contract with the edits as provided.
Laura Rodriguez, I second.
Who seconded?
Laura.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any further discussion relative to the motion?
Yes, I have a question. Maybe you mentioned and I missed about the group counseling. So where did we stop that it's gonna take place only with parental permission? Yes. So parents, will the parents be aware that their child is involved in group counseling or no? Does it?
Yes.
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 So it's gonna be in the contract?
It doesn't have to be in the contract. That's the process by which it happens.
But do we have something like this in the contract?
It includes the piece further up about written parent consent.
So Elena, if a student is going to receive behavioral health services from CHC, and the parent signs off on it saying, yes, I want to do that, they will sit down and create a plan for that student, for that child. The family will be part of that creation of the plan, and the family would also agree to what the delivery method would be. And I think that's what Laura's point is, I think. Laura was just saying, you know, if Phil Stevens sends his child and wants, you know, his child to receive services, but only wants individual counseling, I have the right as a parent to say that. They cannot change that delivery method without my written permission.
But does it say it somewhere, or it's just we think so? How can we make sure if this is the way, then I'm okay with that? But how can we be sure that it's exactly the way? Can they?
And I think this is what Michelle is saying, is it's right here. So they have to get parent permission, written consent right here for behavioral health services. And that written permission is going to include what the student's plan is.
Did they tell you, the company told you that? Did the Health and Mental Services told you that that's what they do?
I think they told the entire board that when they have a student and they create, it's almost like a written plan for a student of what they're going to provide. They're creating goals for the students. The parent has to give consent for what they're going to receive services for. Sure. It's part of their process.
In 2C, it reads the parties.
And I think Elena still has the floor.
No, I'm okay. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, Ann, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry for interrupting. 2C, the parties acknowledge and agree that CHC shall not provide behavioral health services to a student or any other minor unless a parent or legal guardian gives written consent for such behavioral health services. That's listed in 2C.
Right. That's
correct.
So that covers not only the giving of permission, but also the method of which, how the counseling would be provided.
Correct, the plan. Yep,
right.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think that's all of the items.
Okay, Michelle, you had a motion, right?
Yes, there's a motion to approve.
Seconded. Any other discussion, or are we ready to move to vote? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstentions? One abstention.
You have to do a roll call vote then, Herb.
Okay.
I can do it.
Okay.
So Herb, just yes, no, or abstain. Herb?
Abstain.
Michelle?
Yes.
Tracy? You're muted.
Hang on, I can unmute you.
Tracy?
Yes.
Elena?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
That's 6 yeses and 1 abstention. Motion passes.
Right. Okay.
Thanks for all your work on that.
And you will meet with the clinic and give this information.
I told her I would call her tomorrow and give her an update and get things moving if it was signed. So, yep.
So they'll have plenty of time to get set up before the beginning of the school year.
They're going to have to hire somebody. I'm not sure if they'll get somebody in there right away, but it'll be they're ready to move. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Phil. Okay.
You're welcome.
Moving on to board goals.
So this is what was, and I can share this. This is what was emailed. Oops, let me share my screen. That is not what I'm trying to do. My apologies. This is what was shared almost a month ago now. This is a different view of what we were trying to come across with all of our information on one page. I did talk to Donna. She gave some feedback, and one of the things that, and I agree, is we get really wordy in some of these items, and so sometimes less is more. But basically what this is we took our information that we have and just wrote district framework, just like Mansfield's that we liked from our retreat. We've got our mission statement on there, the motto. Based upon your feedback and your comments during the retreat, I inserted beliefs. Those could change. And then the goals, based upon your feedback, I tried to take these are the goals that you've had, but again, we're trying to make these goals that are going to last for a few years, 21 to 24. And so the idea here is something that's it's broad enough that it's going to come to life, and it comes to life. I'm going to show you a different version. It comes to life in the admin portion. So this would be written after the BOE goal approval, and the administrators would write their goals based upon these things. And so I tried to pull a couple that I thought made a little more sense than maybe something that what we have. I liked Coventry's, they had for student growth and success: identify, define, and measure the critical skills and attributes that are required for success, and align systems to continuously improve student performance and achievement. Again, take it or leave it. Is it too wordy? And then this is, if we just took out for the school facilities, this really becomes sustainable and strategic investments. It could be about, the schools or not. And if I like Simsbury's, and instead of this entire piece, it just says identify innovative ways to support the success and growth of all students, ensure fiscal responsibility, and the long-term stability of the district. And then the last thing I want to show you that after a conversation with Donna, and I agreed with her, trying to just put something in there that's simple, that is just like, what are we about? And it was really this statement, as maybe it's an introduction to the beliefs. As the Willington Public Schools prepare students to be good citizens, we have outlined our beliefs and goals to help them be successful in the next steps in their future. Just a simple statement that then comes to life when you start looking at beliefs and goals. So I'm going to be quiet now and let you chime in on what you would like to do. This is the piece that I will meet with my administrative team this Thursday to review and get some information down, because we'll use this information, whatever you approve, towards convocation.
I have a question, Phil, on the school culture and climate. It says the Wilmington Public Schools provide a welcoming environment that is socially, emotionally, and physically safe. And we have done something to that effect already, with our SELs and everything else. It fosters meaningful collaborative relationships in an innovative culture and embraces student diversity. When you break this out in your administrative goals and so forth, just exactly what can we expect in there? And also in an inclusive setting. These are tricky terms, you know, in this day and age, and I really don't know what that means, because it means one thing to one person and something else to someone else. And student diversity has a wide range of topics that you could consider. An inclusive setting is also the same. What does it include? Does it include things that we think should be there, or you think should be there as an administrator? You know, you understand where I'm going?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Herb. It brings lots of different perspectives. Some negative, some positive, but some very negative from my side.
Is this was the question to Phil, or can we address it?
They're your goals.
Okay, all right. Just because to me, right, embracing student diversity, we have all different, our students are all different, right? We don't want them to be like factory assembly line. We come out with cookie cutter students that are all the same. So embracing student diversity is accepting each child the way they are, and that they are all different, and that being different is a beautiful thing. And an inclusive setting goes right with that. When you are inclusive, again, you are accepting each child and you're including them. You're making sure that they feel they belong in school. That's what that means. There's nothing negative about accepting each child and including them and helping them to feel they belong in school. That's what we want. Because if they don't feel they belong in school, they don't want to be there.
Then maybe that's exactly how we should word it. To strive to help children to have a feeling of belonging. Like something simple, because inclusive setting, we're not saying that those are bad words. We're saying that some
that means different
implications, yes, could be different. So if we can simplify it, just exactly as you said, Laura, what you said sounds wonderful.
I'd like to point out that this is the only one that did not change as does not have a recommended change, but was passed last year. And last year, Elena, you changed this language to make it acceptable to you. So this language you approved last year. So I don't know what's changed that you don't like it. I'd rather focus our time on the two that are recommended changes than the one we already agreed upon. If we start with that, we're going to be here till 11 tonight.
Well, I agree with her.
My question in regard to Phil is that I can understand what student diversity is, and I've taught in a school, so I know that inclusive settings and so forth. I can understand that. But when the administrators sit down and they list their goals, what are they going to include in there? What, as far as student diversity?
So basically exactly what Laura just said. So we're going to look at our climate surveys that our students completed. And really we're talking about a sense of belonging. Do they feel like they belong to the school? There's questions about bullying involved in that. Again, do you feel like you're an important member of your school? And the questions in the survey are things like, have you said mean things to anybody? Have students said mean things to you? There's all sorts of data that we use to try and change those things that are around the culture of our buildings, and so that everybody feels like they're an important member of our school community. And that happens at the elementary school, the climate surveys, and the middle school.
Okay, but there are so many terms being thrown around at the present time. Diversity means one thing to one person. It may mean something entirely different to another person. And I would be interested in seeing what you come up with in your list of areas that you would cover. I think you flashed on a screen. I can't read it because it's too small. But will we have a copy of that so we can see that, Phil?
Yeah, once this is all examples of older things that we had from the last goals. But yeah, you could definitely get all of these things of, once you approve it, it's my job to take them to my administrators and we make them come to life of how we're going to achieve your goals over those 3 years.
Is there a way for us to slowly read it? Like, because I've never seen this, well, kind of edited. I've never seen it edited. This
is from last week. This is exactly what he gave us last month.
Michelle.
I don't have it on my, I checked my emails. Just checked my emails. I don't have it. I just checked it.
So the thing that, are you asking Elena about this part, the admin part? It's not, this is just an example. It's been broken apart. And this is just, I was editing using this document as an editing tool. So it doesn't make sense to anything that's in there because I had added this and copied and pasted. So I'd be glad. I mean, this should be something that you see for sure after you approve your goals of how we make it come to life. I mean, that's what you definitely want to see that. Oops.
Well, I was going to say that statement is from 2019, 2020, and then approved for 2020, 21, exactly the same.
Yeah, unfortunately, we are in an environment where the definitions of words are changing so frequently that sometimes it becomes difficult when you're trying to write a document like this. I was kind of wondering, and I'm one for less is more. If we could just leave it as the Wellington Public Schools will provide a welcoming environment for all students. And
well, I'm curious, what is the other meaning of diversity and inclusive that you are all alluding to? Because I have never heard it so in any other way than students are all different, and inclusive is that you include them so they feel they belong. So I'm curious, what is the other meaning?
Well, I've had experience where a student was excluded because whatever group was, championing their particular cause, they just weren't interested in being a part of. And because they weren't getting on the bandwagon, they were then bullied because they weren't getting on the bandwagon instead of being treated, saying you do you, I'll do me, and that's fine. It was not, that was not acceptable. And this was at E.O. Smith. And so, when there's, I think it's just simpler if you just say a welcoming environment for all students.
That sounds wonderful. For all students, welcoming environment, simple. No matter who you are, without using words which could trigger different things.
I still didn't see what the opposite meaning. You gave an example of when this doesn't happen, but not.
No, but that was under the umbrella of diversity. So your diversity, my diversity is not acceptable to somebody else because their diversity is different. And it's just a really, it's difficult to explain without giving very specific examples, and I can't violate other people's privacy on this. But it's very difficult. And you know what, in all honesty, the kids are going to be who they are. Our teachers are going to be who they are. And, we're going to have, as a nature of a community, we're going to have diversity just because, each individual is different. So I guess sometimes I find that some of the statements, you know, foster meaningful collaborative relationships. Well, how about just a place that's welcoming to, you know, a welcoming environment, and the students are treated, we want our teachers treated with respect. We want our students treated with respect, and we want our administrators treated with respect.
Michelle?
The reason that we're producing these goals, and Phil, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that as a board, we are meant to give some direction to the administrative team about what we prioritize, about what's important to us as a community and what we want to focus on for the next 3 years. So the purpose is to give further direction. So
correct.
By making this very generic, we're not giving you what you need.
Well, Elena Testa.
Elena?
Yes, I just don't think that the words embraces student diversity in an inclusive setting carries so much weight that we cannot stay without it. I think if we just remove those few words, like and embraces student diversity, and leave it just in an innovative culture, period, then we have no
unacceptable. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just
and let me finish, Laura. Let me finish. Last year, we had a big discussion about celebrating diversity, and you were so opposed to it, Elena. And I went against everything in my heart to say, okay, I will settle for language that Elena likes, with embracing student diversity in an inclusive setting. Why are you changing this? What has changed for you that embracing student diversity is no longer acceptable?
I can explain. I can answer
from what I wanted.
I can answer why.
Okay.
So,
I'm curious.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna tell you. The society, the direction where our society is moving, calls diversity, started to call diversity things which are not normal, which are not acceptable, things where instead of accepting them as they are, those kids might need help. Instead of saying, okay, you are okay, and we just accept you as you are, while the child needs to be helped. So the definition of what you think normal and I think normal, or somebody else think normal, could be very different nowadays. So that's exactly what the word diversity represents today. Not even a year ago, but today it's very sharp. So that's why I would like to be politically neutral and do not touch that particular word.
So you think, and you think that using the word embracing student diversity means that we will not provide help to students that need it?
No, I think that when students need help, he should get help and not fall into the category that he's just different while he really needs help. And there are different, yes, there are different, there could be different definitions, different conditions. And I'm not saying about one or two particular, but to whatever is normal, obviously normal is different for all of us. So I would feel very safe to remove those words.
So here's my issue with removing or being very generic. It sounds as though you want to go back to thinking of the world like colorblind. So we're just welcoming everyone, but we're not recognizing that children are different, that we have Black children and we have Hispanic children and we have female children and we have male children, and that they should all feel comfortable and safe and happy and are able to learn and grow to their potential. You know, our world is not a colorblind world. Our children are different and they need to be seen that they are different. We cannot look at them as though they are all cookie cutter, the same as each other. And so if you just leave it as this generic welcoming environment, you're not setting any kind of a goal to make each child feel welcome and belong, to recognize that they do have differences. And I'm not talking about mental illnesses that you would just say, oh, they have a mental illness. That's great, wonderful. No, if they have an illness, you want to help them. But if they have differences that stem from race, sexual orientation, gender identity, which it seems to me you guys don't really want to talk about, but these are from their own identities and they feel different and they need to be embraced and feel like they're included and they belong at school. So just saying welcoming environment is not setting any kind of a goal to actually make those children feel welcome.
I have a question. How, if you welcome all students, how would anybody feel less welcome?
But go ahead. Who's? I can't see.
Oh, it's Donna. I don't understand if we welcome all. Oh, now I lost what it said. If we welcome everybody, and we treat each child as the precious gift they are, I fail to understand how anybody would be less than included, because each one of them would be welcomed as the person they are, not based upon some non-existent cookie cutter kid, because even identical twins are different. You know, I am sure that our staff doesn't care about what the external package a child is in. It's the person they are. You know, their hopes, their dreams, their talents, their struggles, and that, you know, as they grow and develop into, you know, as kids grow and develop, that they would be encouraged to excel in the areas that they excel in, and helped in the areas that they struggle in, so that they can just be the best that they can be.
Herb, I'm not sure if you see yeah, I was just going to say Tracy has her hand up if you can't see her.
I'm sorry, Phil. Who had the hand up?
I have my hand up, Tracy.
Okay, go ahead, Tracy.
I just want to bring our attention back to, maybe we missed it because Phil sent it out on July 15th, but you were referred to it earlier, Herb, the joint statement on the importance of culturally responsive education that was approved by more than a dozen education groups, you know, Connecticut Association of Schools, Connecticut State Department of Education, Connecticut State Department of Superintendents, Boards of Education, American Federation of Teachers, and CEA. And the wording that they use in this statement that was sent to us back on July 15th, that Phil hoped we would use in guiding our writing of these goals today, uses the words, it says, it lists all those names again of those organizations, goals of improving academic lives of Connecticut's increasingly diverse student body. This includes sustaining equitable and welcoming learning environments in which all students feel valued, respected, and safe to learn and grow. And this diversity represents a multitude of backgrounds and identities, encompasses a whole list of things. So that language to me seems like we're not off base using that language when it's been supported by so many organizations in our state to foster culturally responsive education. And if what Donna just said about if we're going to welcome all our kids, I don't think the semantics that we're arguing about really make that much difference about that term if we're expecting our teachers to do the things that Donna just said. That's all what we want. We're arguing right now about semantics, but semantics that are supported by organizations that we should be following, that we buy into.
Tracy, thank you very much for your comments. I just want to say that I read that joint statement through and noticed that it is being supported by all those different organizations. Doesn't necessarily mean that I have to accept what they're feeding us, and that's what they're doing. They're pumping this information out, and you're simply gobbling it up and saying this is what it should be. I don't agree with them. on a lot of the issues that they have presented here. This is one point of view as far as being culturally responsive to our students. And as I say, I read this through several times, that joint statement on the important cultural response. And I think that what they're doing is trying to inculcate ideas into our districts and into our system nationwide, because even the Commissioner Caldoni, who our Commissioner of Education in Washington, he advocates all of this as well. He's pushing this cultural responsive education. I don't agree with what they're trying to do myself. I think it's a detriment to our educational system, and sidetracking what we should be doing in our schools. And I think that giving a youngster a good education, an excellent education, provide him with math, history, social studies, all your economics, all of these subjects that we provide, and do an excellent job of training him and getting him so he is a critical thinker, then all of this other will take care of itself. I mean, if you can provide them with a top-rate education, to me, that is much more important than some of these other things that they're trying to push down our throats. I know where you're coming from, and I know that all of these groups, including the American Federation of Teachers, for example, who are pushing this agenda. Also, the State Board of Education is pushing it. And if you go in your colleges, you'll find that all of your colleges are doing the same thing. Whether it's right or not, I can't foresee, but I think we're being sidetracked from what our main goal should be. And even as a board, we don't talk about the curriculum. We don't talk about our subjects. We don't know what's in our subjects. We're talking about SEL, we're talking about diverse training, cultural diversity, and all the rest. And I think the other is much more significant. And I think it's much more important from where I'm sitting. And you're sitting somewhere else. And I know that you believe in what we're doing as a board, and we have our differences. But in this issue, I feel very strongly that our goal should be teaching the youngsters the basic subjects that we have on the table, and this other information is taking hold, and we're spending more time on this. And in school, they're probably spending, in some schools, they're spending whole periods on wellness, all of this. U.S. Smith does. They have 4 subjects a week in the morning that they spend an hour, 45 minutes or an hour talking about wellness of these students and so forth. And it may be significant and it may be important to them, but to me, I still think that our main goal should be a relevant and engaging curriculum. Train the minds of our youngsters so they can go out and survive in our world, which is an economic world.
Laura has her hand up.
So I want to say here that I agree with both Donna and Herb, and if you combine them, I think you're talking about what we're talking about as far as culturally responsive instruction. So yes, I mean, the goal is to teach them about their world, you know, whether it's English, math, social studies, science. It's to teach them how to think about the world, to be critical thinkers, to evaluate information, to become lifelong learners. But you have to reach each child where they are. What Donna was saying, absolutely, the welcoming environment. If we make each child feel that they belong, that they're worthwhile, that their culture and their background is seen. All right, so that's my one difference, Donna, when you're talking about why isn't welcoming good enough. is each child needs to feel that they are seen as an individual with all of their differences, that their background, their culture is valuable. And once they feel they belong, once they feel safe, Maslow's, hierarchy of needs, then absolutely, Herb, that's, then you've got them, and then they'll fly. And you can teach them, all of these skills, all of this knowledge that they can then become independent lifelong learners. So I agree with both of you. I think you just need to put them together. And that's really what culturally responsive teaching is all about. It's centering the child, and, then being able, once you've got them in a community where they feel they belong, then absolutely they can go with all of the subjects that we want to teach them. So anyway.
I have a follow-up question, Laura, because I spent most of my public education years being the minority. And I never thought of it that way until all this stuff comes out where you go down the checklist and you find out that you were the minority. To me, when you're talking about if a teacher has to understand each student's cultural background, that sounds like a real onerous responsibility. And we know, I have friends of many different backgrounds, and I have some that have basic, on paper, it would look like the same background, and no two families are alike. That's just the way it is. Every family has their own culture and their own ways of doing things, and that way. So that just seems to be a bit onerous. And if each student is just welcomed for who they are, for where they are, why do we have to put all this other stuff in there?
So to me, it's fascinating, right? To incorporate when children can bring things that they've experienced at home into the classroom. It's not that you're doing a bunch of research on their lineage or genealogy. You just let them bring it into the classroom in discussions, and then they're seen. They're able to share their knowledge, their experiences. I'm sorry, Tracy, put your hand up and I keep jumping in.
No, I was after you. But I'm currently taking classes. I have been for 3 years to further my education to become a reading specialist. And what students are taught in university now who are going into teaching is we need to provide windows and mirrors so kids can see themselves in what we're doing, whether it's math, science, social studies, anything, Spanish, language, whatever. But also they can see windows into other people's lives to be welcoming and understand where people are coming from. And we also have to look at the culture of students, because if the culture, if their cultural experience at home is different in their way they learn things than what we're expecting them to present it to us, we may have a student who knows so much information, but they can't explain it or present it to us in the fashion we're asking. So we need to be open to allowing them to express it the way they are comfortable with. Having a kid write an essay versus having a kid, this is just what's coming to the top of my head, perform it through a rap, that might be the language that they're most comfortable with in their situation. Expecting a student to show eye contact if they have moved into our community and they're from a culture that's not acceptable, forcing them to look at us in the eye and tell us is going to create a situation where you have a kid who's being disruptive when it's just because we're not understanding where they're coming from. So teachers have to be more, they have to know their students better than maybe they did when we were in school. We teach kids where they're coming from. We should be teaching them from where they're coming from and not putting them all in. I have 12 individuals who are all the same in front of me and I'm going to teach them all the same. We have to put more effort into it maybe than was done in the past. And that's because of research and the ways we've learned how to teach in a better way.
So I have a question. So are you saying that we need to, if we have 20 kids in the class, the teacher is expected to develop 20 individual educational programs?
Not 20 individual educational programs, but to diversify your teaching and meeting them where they're at as far as their ability. You know, one student might be able to do the reading in a high level novel. Someone else is going to need to get the information in an easier, able to be read novel. Someone is going to be better to see it visually in a video. They might need both audio and video. They might need a combination of 3 different things. And it's your job as the teacher to recognize that and find what's going to best fit them. And it sounds like a lot of work, but what's being taught as the best methods, best practices for teachers these days. Whether it seems like a lot of work or not, that's really what's being taught as best practices in all areas.
Anne has her head.
Anne?
Yes, thank you. We also have to remember we're living in a very global society. Many of our children are going to grow up and work all over the world. We also have to remember that within a few years, Connecticut is going to be over 50% what we define as diverse. So we really need to acknowledge that and think of COVID. Haven't we given the kids a socially, emotionally, and physically safe environment? And that is always going to apply. So I think we need to spell these things out so that we can prepare the kids for the future and what the world is like and will be like.
Recommend that we move to the first one. Herb, you were more concerned about the academic piece, and there is a recommendation on the academic piece that is included under student growth and success that Phil has put in there from Coventry. Can we look at that? That says identify, define, and measure the critical skills and attributes that are required for success and align systems to continuously improve student performance and achievement. Nobody's commented on that at all. Is that because they like the one that he's put forward from Coventry? Does anybody have problems with that?
I like the Coventry.
And that was also what Tracy was just saying, how you modify what you're teaching for each of your students. Align systems to continuously improve student performance.
Herb, does that meet your focus on the basics that you were talking about?
What are you saying, Michelle?
You were the person who had raised the question about wanting that to be important. It is the first of the goals. Does the Coventry goal meet your needs?
I don't have any problem with the student growth and success goal.
Okay. Anybody have any issues with the sustainable and strategic investments goal, the one by Simsbury that says identify innovative ways to support this?
The one I had a question about, and I'm not satisfied with, the school culture and climate goal that we have. Regardless of what if we had it last year or the year before that or whatever, right now, I do not like that particular goal.
How do you feel about the third one, the one from Simsbury that says identify innovative ways to support the success and growth of all students, ensure fiscal responsibility and the long-term stability of the district?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that one. Okay, Anne?
Anne has her hand up.
Phil, could you share with us at some point the climate survey that you did with the schools? Maybe that would help us to better understand that school climate, culture and climate goal.
Yeah, that data will come out when we do the iReady data and SBAC, it's all, we'll lump it all in there together.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Tracy's hand is up.
I can't see it.
Okay, can I speak? So, Tracy Anderson.
Tracy?
So my question is, I like the student growth and success. I like what Coventry said, but I also see what we said was good. So I'm wondering, are we going to put that on in addition, or are we replacing one with the other for both of that one and the sustainable strategic investments? And then I'm hearing Phil say he needs us to move on these goals tonight because he has to work with his administrative staff on Thursday, because I'm guessing convocation is going to happen in the next 2 weeks. I mean, it's going to have to, because school starts somewhere in the next 3 weeks. So, I mean, perhaps we could take a minute, and if there's other suggestions, we could have a blank page and type out some different suggestions or work on tweaking what we have. But I'm hearing I don't like, but I'm not hearing this is what I'd like instead. So
Anne has her hand up.
I think Elena Rendonner made a suggestion regarding the school culture and climate goal, and just having Willing Public Schools will provide a welcoming environment. Anne, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I was going to say, I agree with Tracy that I like both the Willington statement and the Coventry statement under student growth and success. I think they work well together.
I agree.
So Anne, just to clarify, are you saying that you would leave in the existing statements about Wellington schools and then add in the piece underneath it?
For Coventry. For the
Coventry one.
Not necessarily sustainable and strategic. I think I probably maybe keep something about the long-term plan, but I wouldn't have it exclusively for the use of the school facilities. I like the broadness of the Simsbury.
And Phil, did you mean to replace what was already there and take out the first sentence of the sustainable and strategic investments, or leave that in and add on identifying innovative ways?
That's for your discussion. I mean, you can do it either way.
Okay.
If you want to blend them together, that's fine. It was just as a talking point. I think when we look at the Simsbury one, this probably more accurately describes where you're at, because you were talking about what do we do with our school buildings. Right now, that's on the school building committee at this point in time. So to take off for the school facilities, you cross that off. And if you, I mean, this is really talking, the Simsbury plan is still talking about a comprehensive long-term plan for your school buildings, but it's the stability of the school district. So it's really this. So I think this one you could probably just adopt with the strike through. You know, Wellington Public Schools will identify innovative ways to support the success and growth of all students, ensure fiscal responsibility, and the long-term stability of the district. I think that one you could just strike this section here. And then I think if you add these all together, this gets a little long, but you could say, you could say the Wellington Public Schools will foster intellectual risk-taking and increase achievement by identifying, defining, and measuring the critical skills and attributes. You could take out kind of this section here.
I really like the rigorous, relevant, engaging curriculum.
I do too. I think it falls, Laura, I think it falls into the align systems to continuously improve. When you're talking about aligning your systems, you're talking about curriculum. So it's just a question of, do you want to separate them, or do you want not want to?
I also like keeping the curriculum piece in there, and Herb, that was something that you had mentioned was really important to you, spelling out the curriculum.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it sounds kind of like we're just identifying and testing. You know,
well, you could also, Laura, sorry to interrupt you. You could also take this Coventry statement and put it in your beliefs, because it could be considered a belief too.
I do see that more as a goal to continuously improve student performance and achievement.
I have a recommendation. How about the Willington Public Schools will identify, define, and measure the critical skills and attributes that are required for success for all students by providing a rigorous, relevant, and engaging curriculum.
Nicely done, Michelle.
Say that again.
I knew you were going to make me do that. Okay.
We'll identify, define,
we'll identify, define, and measure.
Yep.
The critical skills and attributes that are required for success. Yep.
And that thing, just say and foster, and got the rest of it.
Yeah, you can do that.
And
foster, that's easier, yeah.
And then just finish with that sentence.
And then this would be gone.
Yes.
Does that meet everyone's needs for the student growth and success?
Increasing achievement, you're talking about the
yeah, Michelle, you should read it because you just adjusted it. And
okay. So I did make a difference there. So, and foster intellectual risk-taking.
Oops, I missed the define.
Student achievement for all students by providing, I said, instead of through.
Could you say?
You want me to say it out loud?
By providing a rigorous, relevant, engaging curriculum.
Providing?
Yeah, that's what I had said.
The Willington Public Schools will identify, define, and measure the critical skills and attributes that are required for success and foster intellectual risk-taking and increased achievement for all students by providing a rigorous, relevant, and engaging curriculum.
Yes.
I have a small suggestion. Changing the word "and" after risk-taking to "to."
Yes, that works even better.
Yes.
You want to add that or delete it?
Delete "and" after risk-taking.
Yes.
And change that to "to."
Okay. Okay, any other comments relative to the first goal? Student growth and success.
So for that last one, Phil, take out Simsbury and make identify capitalized. And take out that first sentence. Yeah, you got it. There you go.
Okay, Phil, did you get that?
Yeah.
Is that what you're looking at, Michelle?
Yes. And if you would just then hit strike through for all of the Simsbury piece.
Yep. Willington Public Schools will identify innovative ways to support the success and growth of all students, ensure fiscal responsibility, and the long-term stability of the district. Okay.
Given the fact that it's all after 9 o'clock, I move that we accept the goals and the belief statements as they are currently edited on the screen. So
I would say
not all come to, okay, thank you. I don't need to comment on it. Anne just seconded it.
I will second it.
Thank you.
Who seconded?
And
okay. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to accept the edited goals. Any other comments that you'd like to make at this time? Okay, if not, we will move to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed?
Aye.
You got to do a roll call now.
Okay. You want to take
Herb? Yep, Herb.
No.
Michelle?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Elena?
No.
Tracy?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Donna?
No.
That's 1, 2, 3, 4 yeses and 3 nos.
Okay, the motion is passed. And Bill, you can print up a copy of that for everyone, can't you?
I will, yes, absolutely.
The chance. And also, when you finish the administrative goals, can you give us a copy of that too?
Absolutely, I will share them. Yep, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're down to the next item on our agenda, present to speak. 9:05. Do we have anyone on the line?
So we just click the box. You can unmute yourself if you are present to speak. Just identify yourself, please, if there's anybody there. Going once.
Hello?
I'm hoping. Oh, there we go.
Hi. Hi, my name is Gary Anderson, 47 Nipmuc Road. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank those that just voted for the last motion. And I just find it a little bit disturbing, to be honest, that 3 of the members of the Wilmington Board of Education disagreed with terms as benign as diversity and inclusion. That should be something that we're all striving for. I don't think there shouldn't be any question about that, in my opinion. So again, I feel like some people are trying to politicize those terms, and really they're not political words. They're things that we should all stand behind. I will say that one of my children was listening to the call here, and he gets it. So I wish that we all kind of would come along and start to understand those things in the way that our kids do. And so again, I thank the four members that voted for that, and I hope we can all kind of come to terms with what those terms mean and how important they are. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Do we have anyone else, Phil?
Again, anybody that's in the meeting, you can unmute yourself if you want to speak. All right, Herb.
Okay, we're down to board comments. Okay, Phil, thank you for the information concerning the opening of school, and I look forward to seeing you can develop a packet, are you, like the last time?
Yes, with professional development, and there will be things, an invitation for convocation for you to all those details.
Okay, so it looks like we'll have everything in order and ready to go, in a few weeks, which is good. And I hope that we have 100% of our students back, because it's very important that we have in-person teaching in our schools for our students. The virtual is okay, but it's not as productive as in school learning. I had some other comments, but I'll save them for later. Okay. Michelle?
I want to wish the administrative team and the various search committees luck over the next month as they are looking to fill positions. This is always in some ways the most difficult month of the year preparing for a new district. And I appreciated Mr. Stevens giving us the update on where that stands. But there's a lot left to do to get ready for opening the schools this year, even more so than usual. So I wish them all Godspeed as they do this important work to keep our kids safe. I want to express my pleasure and relief that we approved the health center contract this year for behavioral health services to provide children with the types of counseling that they need. There's a horrible shortage for individual counseling services in this part of the state, and given the pandemic, I think that there are many kids who are going to need individual counseling to be able to learn this year. And I think we did right by our students and right by our families. I was relieved that the contract changes were such that it was simplified and made it easier for all of us to come to agreement on that. It's been a very long road. It's taken us more than 18 months to get this approved, but I'm very pleased that students in Willington will now have some of the services that they so very much need.
Thank you. Jan?
I'd like to thank Rich Napoli. I've had the opportunity to work with him over the past 3 years as a guardian of some children. So I wish him well. Thank him for everything he's done for Center and wish him well in his future. Also, welcome to Erin Connolly. I think it's wonderful that she's joined us, and I think it'll be wonderful that she can help out our consultants as well as our teachers and getting our curriculum into a digital or written format, or however it appears, so that it can be shared with everyone. I also thank the teachers who volunteered to teach summer school this summer. That was really going above and beyond the call of duty. So thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Tracy?
I'd like to wish our staff that have moved on to bigger and better things the best of luck, and especially Rich. And I was very excited to have met online Erin, and I can't wait to continue to work with her as she develops the curriculum and we get to get up close and personal with it and learn more about the curriculum that for our schools. It's out there, but now we'll get to see it in writing or digitally, as Ann said. I'm also excited that we finally approved the Community Health Center contract. We'll have that in place after 1.5 years of lots of discussion, and so I think that will be a large benefit for our district. And I wish everyone, all our administrators, staff, faculty, and students, bus drivers, everyone involved, a super beginning to this school year. Better than last year and the best ever, baby. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Donna?
Well, I would like to say that I am pleased to be part of a board that is not making parents stand out in 100-degree heat for 4 hours in order to participate in the Board of Education. So unlike Virginia, I'm thankful that we have the Zoom opportunity. I would like to encourage parents and community members to continue to show up to meetings and participate in the process. You know, I believe each one of the board members works very hard and is really trying to make our schools the best they can be. But parental feedback and community involvement is very important. So I just want to thank you, all the ones who've been showing up to meetings. Whether I agree or disagree with your opinion, it doesn't matter. You're showing up and you're participating, and that's important. And I just want to encourage, I heard this the other day, I think it's going to be one of my new slogans is live your best life. So I encourage each of us to live our best life. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Elena? Next.
Well, I totally agree with Donna. that it's extremely sensitive time at this point in history, and that's what we are living in now. And I think it's very important for parents to have as much participation in our meetings as much as possible, because we can do nothing if nobody is involved, and we can achieve anything if people get involved. So, and the main thing is that we all want the best for our children. So if we work together, the board, the teachers, the parents, which is going to produce the best fruit possible in children's lives. So I would emphasize that Donna's encouragement for parents to get involved and to be aware of everything what's going on. Ask your questions. Do not be afraid to ask your questions. And thank you so much for everyone who participated in this meeting. And I also would like to congratulate the children, especially with the beginning of a new school year. I know it's exciting. It used to be very exciting. And I just hope this year is going to be very exciting for you too, in spite of all this, whatever is going on with COVID. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Okay, anyone else have a final comment?
Laura, you didn't call on Laura, Herb.
Oh, I didn't? I thought I did.
No, you skipped Laura.
I apologize. It wasn't intentional.
That's okay. That's okay. I have less to say once everybody has talked. Oh gosh, although I did actually have a lot of notes I wrote down. So first of all, I wish all the people, and I know you mentioned Rich, I think you mentioned some other folks that we didn't hear cutting out, but anybody who has moved on to other places, wish them well, and welcome Erin Connolly. Definitely looking forward to working with her on developing the curriculum going forward. I also wanted to say, absolutely agree with both Donna and Elena as far as parental participation, so incredibly important. We all do this work because we want the best for our children, and our parents want the best for their children. So it is so critical to get involved and to become aware. And with that, I have to address the letter that was read into the minutes at the beginning of the board meeting from Jamie LK, I guess, email came from, because there were so many, there was so much misinformation in that letter. And I don't know what the procedure is, but I do hope that the board addresses that misinformation about the community health center, because they will not be administering medications and vaccinations. That the importance of masking is really emphasized. And this is the piece, as a person with a degree in biology and a science educator, I'm still not understanding why people do not understand that when you put a mask on, it is not for yourself, it is for the other people around you. It is keeping your droplets contained so you're not infecting someone else. So the idea that putting a mask on is parental choice, it would then be the choice of the parent of that other child, whether your child wears a mask or not. You wear a mask for other people. So, you know, this idea that parents should decide about masking, I'm sorry, you know, I'm a parent, and I certainly wouldn't have wanted my child to get another child, especially one who might be vulnerable, sick with something like COVID. The incidence of children getting sick from COVID is rising. We cannot ignore the dangers of the Delta variant. And there's also the Lambda variant. And as more people get infected, there will be other variants. We've got to mask up, get vaccinated, and try to stop the spread so that we don't get a variant that is immune to the vaccine. So anyway, I just had to say that. I had to get that off my chest, I guess, because there was so much misinformation, and that's going around the community, and I think it needs to be addressed. So after that, definitely I want to wish staff, faculty, students just a great start to the new year. it's going to be another crazy year. Hopefully it will get better as the year goes on. My prayers and wishes are with everyone in the schools that this year will get better and not take a nosedive the other way. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura. Might mention, you mentioned vaccinations in Wellington. People 65 years of age and older, 100% of our citizens in Wellington have been vaccinated.
That is fabulous.
In the age group 44 to 64 is 61%. And the 16 to 44, which would be probably most of our parents, it's 43%, 43.3454%. And the 12 to 15-year-olds, believe it or not, is 43%. But I was interested in the 16 to 44, which I assume is mostly the parents in town. They have not been vaccinated as of the 8th of this month. So I don't know what that means. It means that a lot of our youngsters are coming from a home where the parents have not been vaccinated, and the youngsters probably have not been vaccinated. So
especially under 12.
I don't know whether that will improve or change, and I don't know how long the vaccine that everyone's received is going to last. You know. But thank you, Laura, for those comments. It was very interesting. Okay, anyone else like to make a final comment at this time? Okay, Phil, we're going to turn everything back to you now. You can carry on, and good luck in opening school. We're behind you. If you need us for a special meeting or anything like that, just let us know. We're available.
No,
Thanks. I have my fingers crossed for a great start.
No special meetings.
We may have our different. We love going to meetings.
All right, you need a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
I move that we adjourn.
Seconded.
Okay, it's moved and seconded by Elena. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? We are now adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Night, everybody.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Stay safe.